Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're here with a little conversation with City Councilor Isaac Benton. We'll be talking about a few things in the district and the city. And Councilor Benton, welcome today.
Thank you.
And remind me again, what is the district number that you serve?
It's District 2.
And so let's talk a little bit about you personally. Where are you from originally? I know you have an interesting background.
Well, I'm originally from Jackson, Tennessee. I was born in West Tennessee. And when I was in 3rd grade, we moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico. And that's where I grew up through high school until I went off to college. And so that was an interesting transition for me, but a really good one in the end.
I can imagine, and we many of us appreciate the fact that you are very fluent in Spanish, so thank you for helping us with
Puerto
that.
Rican Spanish, which
Puerto
is a
Rican
whole different
Spanish.
animal, but I get along in Spanish.
That's
yes.
great. That's great. And Councilor Benton, your family. Tell us a little bit about your family and as much of your personal life as you would like to discuss.
Sure. Well, my dad was a contractor, building contractor, and residential primarily, and my mother was a housewife. I have 3 younger sisters, and most of my family lives on the East Coast. Only a few of us made it out west, and one of my cousins and I are the only Westerners of the clan.
Interesting. And you obviously enjoy New Mexico.
It's a great place. 37 years now. It's hard to beat. You know, we have our ups and downs, but it's hard to beat New Mexico and Albuquerque.
That is true. And Councilor Benton, what do you do outside, in your real life, outside of your volunteer life as a city councilor?
Well, I'm an architect. I had my own firm for about 18 years, and semi-retired now. I still put in some time in the architecture business. I still love working out building problems and site design, and so I keep my hand in the game, if you will, but don't have my own firm anymore. And that's my livelihood, and still enjoy that.
And that's good that you still enjoy it. It's nice to have something we like. How long have you been a city councilor?
I'm on my 9th year as a city council, and my 3rd term on the council.
Excellent. Thank you for serving that long. It's a real commitment. Can you give us a little bit of an outline of the district, of the boundaries, just so people watching can get an idea of where you serve?
Yeah, District 2 includes pretty much all of the valley east of the river. So if you picture the North Valley up to the city limits, and then the southern part of the east side of the river all the way down to San Jose and South Broadway and Borellis neighborhoods. Pretty much everything on the south part of the valley. Includes downtown, of course, Old Town, and then also there's a kind of little wing of the district that goes up into the university area. So the North University and West University neighborhoods are also in the district.
Interesting. That's I believe our largest geographically district in the city.
Yes, it really is a big, diverse district.
And very challenging. Good for you. That's a good one to take on. Councilor, what caused you to want to run for city council the first time around?
Well, to tell you the truth, some folks asked me to run. I probably had joked around or thought about it or mentioned maybe being in public office or serving in public office over the years, but about 8 years ago, a small group of people who I respected said that it would be a good time for me to give it a try. And I'd never been in elected politics before, other than being the president of the AIA, the Architects Association of the state. And but we gave it a go and managed to get in there, and it's been an interesting ride.
It has, hasn't it? Councilor, how do you see that you've made a difference in not only your district but in the city, and kind of combine those, and because sometimes we're looked at as only a district councilor when what we do affects the entire city.
Well, for one thing, I do think that downtown is important to the whole city. And I thank you for your support over the years for some of the things that we've tried to do downtown. And downtown's a challenge. Downtown's a challenge, or challenges all over the country because of the changes of the way people live and some of the growth patterns of our city. But citywide, I think that the thing that I would point to, one of the most important things was the passage of the Workforce Housing Ordinance and the Workforce Housing Trust Fund. I think that's doing a lot of good for us, especially in today's economy. We're able to leverage those funds with the workforce housing, with federal tax credit programs to get a lot of much needed housing. And when we talk about workforce housing, we're really talking about people who do, for the most part, have jobs and have to qualify to get in the program. But we built quite a few housing units since that was passed, and I co-sponsored that with now Commissioner Debbie O'Malley a few years back. That's one thing I really point to. Another culturally important work that I did was the acquisition of the old rail yards, the historic rail yards in Borellis, which we're still in the process of getting a development agreement in place, but we did end up purchasing that property. It's an incredible historic asset to the city, very important part of our history, our history in the early part of the last century. And we do have a master developer on board for the project and a master plan, all of which is coming before the City Council relatively soon. So those are two big items. I've focused very much on transportation and transportation projects as well. And right now I'm working on a complete streets policy for the city.
That's interesting. And we'll talk about that a little later, so we can talk a little bit more about that project, because we haven't heard as much about that as I think we would like to and need to. So tell me about some of the things that are happening that impact the city and your district specifically, that are happening in the city right now.
Well, I think one really important thing, I mentioned downtown, and I think we've got a momentum going right now with regard to an interest in downtown on the part of the city, but also CNM and UNM are, as you may know, are investing in downtown, and some of the viewers may have heard about the Innovate Albuquerque project, which is a downtown project to try to help young entrepreneurs, young and old entrepreneurs, to bank on some of the great science and innovation technology that we already have here in the state with Sandia Labs and in the city. So I'm very excited about that. Along with that Innovate ABQ project, we're looking at doing some improvements in that immediate area around the train station, Alvarado Transit Center, the convention center, east downtown and west of downtown, that I think I'm hopeful will really help our convention business and our tourist industry, as well as be attractive to locals.
Excellent. And of course, we're all aware of, anyone who goes downtown at all is very much aware of the convention center remodel.
Right.
Do you see that as a major player in what we're doing now?
I do. You know, I've served for a couple of years now on the executive board of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I've long been a believer that we just have such a great offering as a destination for tourism and conventions. I mean, we really have the great climate, the great cultural history and interesting mix of cultures here. Wonderful natural environment with our mountains right nearby, our historic Old Town. We have a lot to offer in terms of tourism, but and I think the remodel of the convention center was long overdue.
Thank you. Along with that, you know, we do have a few issues in the city that we always have in the city. We have issues in a city this size. And do you have any good vision or plans that you'd like to discuss that could help resolve some of the things that we need to do to make us grow and be even better?
Yes, I'll talk a little bit about one concern, and this is something that, of course, everyone is it's on a lot of people's minds today, these days, with the shooting of the homeless man up in the foothills. And as you can imagine, my district, including downtown and the university area, does have a lot of challenges with homelessness and people on the streets that could be mentally ill or have substance abuse problems. And we're not alone in that. Every big city has problems of that sort with their downtowns and center city areas. But I feel like there's some interesting things coming together with regard to services for homeless people and people with mental illness and substance abuse problems, and looking at how we tackle that. As a community, there are plenty of people and a lot of programs that are focused on those problems, but I don't think there's been the kind of central coordinated effort of all of those programs, and we spend a fair amount of city money and state funding, federal funding with these programs, but the coordination has been lacking, and you know, as awful as it was, that shooting and the sort of catharsis we're going through with regard to public safety, I think that something that's really going to be good that comes out of that is going to be a much more coordinated system. And I've been having a lot of conversations with some of the providers in the downtown area and people in general looking at homeless issues and mental health issues. And I think there's a lot of interest in trying to look at that issue and help direct people to the services they need, but also kind of help keep track of them and make sure that they're just don't drop off the map and become unaccounted for the way James Boyd did.
I think that's a great idea, and I hope we can get something started on that. It's very important. Thank you. One of the things that you mentioned before, and we just touched on it briefly, was the Complete Streets Plan.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that probably hasn't been out in the public as much as it should be, and therefore a number of us don't truly understand what you're talking about. Would you give us some, because I know you were intimately involved with this, would you give us some information about that and why and what?
Yeah, the whole idea of complete streets is just making sure that when we build or rebuild our public infrastructure, our public rights of way, that they're really built with a lot of different interests in mind. Not just the idea that, well, I've got to move my vehicle through there as efficiently as possible, but that you've got businesses along those corridors that we want to foment, and especially small businesses that need a good environment in which to operate, and that we increase walkability to make destinations along those corridors, so that we increase walkability from neighborhoods along to enter and do business on those corridors, but also for visitors to come, park, and enjoy a pedestrian environment as well. So I think cities that are really looking forward are focused on multimodality. So when we say multimodality, it's the car, definitely, but it's also walking, biking, and use of transit. So we very much built our infrastructure in the 50s, 60s, and 70s just for the car. And it's not inexpensive, but it can be done incrementally to gradually transition to a more walkable but also business-friendly environment along our major corridors. So a lot of what I tackle, and you probably have this too in your district, you know, the concerns with speeding and so forth in neighborhoods. And we can design our roadways to move traffic steadily and efficiently, but not necessarily above the speed limit. I'm a designer, and I believe that if you design a road for the speed that you're aiming to achieve, you'll achieve that. And you can't just do that through law enforcement. You need to do that through the physical design of the street. So street trees, nice sidewalks, bike facilities, steady but lawfully moving traffic. It's kind of what it's about.
And it seems that now is a perfect opportunity with the revitalization of downtown and
Mhm.
the concentration on the downtown area,
Right.
that we could really put some of this into practice and make some good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it seems that if we have a good example somewhere that we show that it works, it could spread.
Well, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, we've done a couple of small projects, very humble projects, where we've just restriped a roadway temporarily and shown that it still works well. We look at of course, a big investment was put in with a lot of federal help in the lead coal corridor,
Yes.
which is a beautiful roadway. Used to be a 3-lane roadway, now it's a 2-lane roadway. Works just as well, but it's much more beneficial to the people who live along it, and for people who might want to traverse that area of town.
It is very nice. It's a lovely project. Do you have any short-term, long-term visions that you would like to share about both your district and the city?
Well, you and I are co-sponsoring, I think, a very interesting big vision project, which is the rewriting of our development ordinances, all our varied development codes and systems into a unified development ordinance. I think that's maybe a project that outlasts our tenure on the council.
Or maybe our lives.
Possibly, it's a big effort to bite off, but I'm strongly supportive of that. I think that could include things like complete streets. It can include things like some of the multi-use zoning and mixed-use zoning that people are in desire of these days, whether they're empty nesters or the younger generations that are more interested in a walkable more urban type environment. And I don't think you or I would want to see that kind of environment, urban environment throughout the city. There's obviously plenty of place for suburbia, but also even within our suburban areas, there's a need for small nodes that are kind of exciting places where you can go, as I said, park once, walk to a few different businesses, have dinner, or a drink, or some entertainment of some sort in smaller urban nodes as well as at downtown. Mm-hmm. So that's something I really think that Albuquerque needs to get behind, and I think there's a lot of support for it, both growing support in both the neighborhoods and in the development community.
And I think it's interesting, one of the things you mentioned, Councilor Benton, and that is the fact that we can incorporate this type of a living style along with some of the existing suburbia styles. So,
Right.
so the goal, at least for me in this plan, and you and I have worked very well on this together, is not to change the entire look of the city, but to make different areas feel and look differently,
Mm-hmm.
so that people have options in the city.
Right. Well, you know, so much of it, a successful city is celebrating a sense of place. As I said, we have so much going for us here, and the different parts of town are so interesting and unique. I mean, Old Town is so different from
Yes.
Nob Hill, but they're both interesting places that need to be protected and enhanced and made to work even better without changing their character.
I like that. I like that idea a great deal. It doesn't threaten people.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us understand. Do you, in all of your infinite wisdom and your architectural skills and your experience, do you have any great vision for the city that you'd like to share?
Well, I think I think that's it's really centered around these things we were just talking about the way we grow and develop, the way we get around the city, protecting our natural environment. Certainly, I'm a big advocate for kind of keeping the Bosque a natural place and protecting our foothills and some of the other great parts of the city. But I also do think that we need more vibrancy in some of the urban areas. And my sense is that if we can rebuild that vibrancy that we had probably years ago in a place like downtown, that it's going to be good for business as well. So my vision certainly includes a strong support for locally grown small business, community-oriented facilities where people can walk and bike and enjoy our great climate. So I guess that's my big vision as an architect and planner. I grew up in San Juan, Puerto Rico. As I said, I think I'm an urban guy, and that's where I live in Albuquerque. So urbanism, whether on a big scale or just in our centers and corridors, which I think we've got some good planning and good policy along those lines. That's the key to our success as a city.
I like that. As we draw to a close on this, Councilor Benton, is there anything you'd like to share with your constituents? I don't mean not necessarily just the constituents in your district, but of course the city constituents.
Well, I think if there's one thing I would want to share in closing is for people to get involved. You know, we have to make appointments to public bodies. Sometimes it's a real challenge to get people to give up their time, and you and I give up a lot of our time on the city council. But there's so many boards and commissions that are really important to the quality of our city and to the success of our city. And so I really encourage people to get involved, whether it's in your neighborhood association or your business association, or giving some consideration to serving on one of these boards, whether it's a highly controversial and hot seat like the Police Oversight Commission or the Planning Commission, or whether it's just getting involved in something you love and promoting it, like the Arts Board. But there are a lot of opportunities for people to serve, and public service has really been rewarding to me. I hope other people will do the same.
Thank you. That's a great statement. And along that, as we're finished now, would you like to give contact information so people would like to reach you? How do they go about that?
The best way to get a hold of me is either calling the city council office and just ask for Councilor Benton's policy analyst, whose name is Diane Dolan, and she's a super champ who tries to stay ahead of our long list of requests, or just emailing me at ibenton@cabq.gov.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. It's been a real pleasure. We
Thank
appreciate
you
on the council.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Same.